Say it isn't so.
Yeah, it's so. We're live, Mark.
Well,
And we want to thank everybody for joining us, and we'll probably be off here in about 10 minutes. Hey, Johnny Gill's in there. I tried to call Johnny, didn't I, Mark?
You did.
Went right to voicemail. I bet he's got me blocked. There's Spencer, Mr. Lee, 3PO, Mary Brim, Larry Metzner, Sandra Piper. Carrie is in there. Uh-oh. What was all that?
I just got a notification that Going Live was live.
Well, mine's better than yours because I get yours the next day.
Trying to pull up some kind of video. Maybe it's this way. I'm not sure.
That's what it is. We're going to discuss tonight some of our past investigations. I hear an echo. It's driving me nuts. Is it me?
I don't hear you echoing. I'd hear you talking in the next room.
Maybe that's the echo. I'll talk lower. No, it's still echoing. Anyway, what were we going to talk about tonight?
Bigfoot investigations.
Have you been on any Bigfoot investigations?
I have. And Carrie just sent us one last week to do. And so far, I think it's starting out pretty good.
I agree. I do. Once we get a report from somebody, could you get rid of that sound? Come on. You're supposed to be a professional or a novice.
Well, I just heard back from Carrie, and he is going to be our guest Thursday night. And
all right.
So, Barry Browning, you're next week.
How about that? Get shoved back just like that.
Let's see. I'm going to try to get this stuff pulled up, Larry.
Well, I wish you luck. I've got one question I got to address before we start.
Okay.
I put on the thing about mistakes we've made in Bigfooting.
Uh-huh.
And somebody had a good question.
Well, I saw it. And since it was addressed to me, I'm sure you're going
to. It's a question we all want to know. Well, it disappeared. Which question were you talking about? The one Spencer asked?
Yeah.
Oh, well. That's Spencer. He don't mind asking them hard questions.
Why can't I find? No, I can't find this.
Well, it's probably because of all the preparation you put into this show. We walked in from the restaurant and said, we're going live in 10 minutes. Well, I can't even find the question. So much for that question. Mr. 3PO repeated it, though. Fu Manchu. So whenever you get an investigation that's new, what are the first things you do?
The first thing is to really talk to whoever had the encounter and to feel them out, to find out a little background information. And then you want to, with that information, you kind of shift gears and you want to start pulling up maps of the area. You want to check out and see if there are any other sighting reports. There's plenty of databases that you can go to and check the state and the county and read the accounts. And from there, then you want to go into the area and actually put boots on the ground and look for signs.
I agree with that. I know once you do talk to the witness and you get an idea of what's going on around their property, my favorite thing to do is to look at the topo map, the overall map, try to figure out which way they're coming from. And this is terrible. I'm constantly hearing myself. Would it help if I close my eyes? Or if I talk slower? I can't talk any slower.
You can't talk slower.
Oh, I'll just try to ignore it. Shelly's ignoring Nightwolf. She's mean. All right. Mighty American, what is one of the most scariest Bigfoot stories you have heard?
Mine, and it's still my favorite, is what happened to Carrie Arnold down in Mississippi, to be completely unaware of these creatures and them not even being on your radar, and then coming to a face-to-face encounter with one that intentionally revealed itself to you.
He threw one back at me. Go on with your story.
Well, I just told it, Larry. You wasn't listening. You was
You were
reading
done?
chat. I was done.
My scariest story is there's a bunch of them.
I know one that messed you up for some time after it happened, and that was the Oklahoma hammock scream.
Yeah.
And what happened later on that night. And then you think about it in the days and weeks to come, and you just really realize how helpless you are just laying there, and you're at their mercy.
That's true, because the next couple of outings, I made sure I put my hammock in the middle of everybody. Except for that one guy from Mississippi. Annie, can you say her last name?
I can't
Stevenson?
read it.
What is the nicest report you have heard? I've heard many reports about hikers that got injured or something, or children being lost, and like a female Sasquatch would carry them back to the camp of who they were with and drop them off. I've heard of several stories like that. Whether they're made up or not, I don't know, but I've heard several of that caliber. That's probably the nicest thing I've heard out of it was the children, because the Indian lore says that they stole children and women. So to occasionally hear where they return a child to where they need to be, it's pretty good. And I'm sorry, I must sound funny, but I keep hearing myself. I'm going to have to go to the other end of the house or something.
You sound all right. It's just.
It's coming back at me. I can't even keep my train of thought. But back to the investigation till I get another question here.
Well, you've missed some.
What did I miss?
Mighty American says, can you tell us what happened with the hammock story?
Did I miss that?
Yes.
Well, what happened was we had been to this place in Oklahoma that was known for a lot of Bigfoot activity. And Mark and I decided to camp away from everybody. And we set up our hammocks in a secluded area with a little overlook next to them. And that night we hung out with the Sisters of the Moon and some guys at camp at a creek. We were having stuff thrown in the creek from the opposite side of the creek from us. And Mark and I spent an hour walking up and down the creek trying to flank whatever was throwing the rocks in there to catch it on thermal, and never could get a vantage point of them. So once we got tired of that little interaction, it was getting late. So Mark and I got on his four-wheeler and went across this creek to where we were camped. And as soon as we turned off the four-wheeler, that howl that you hear at the beginning of Mark's show, that's where it was recorded. As soon as we turned the four-wheeler off, and I think Mark went to his hammock about 30 yards from me or 40, and I just sat down in my hammock, and that thing let off that scream, and we both looked at each other, shrugged our shoulders, cut the lights off, got in the hammock. So I had allergies, and I'd take some allergy medicine that I can take a half a Benadryl and it'll knock me out. But I went to sleep pretty quick. But about, wasn't it 2:30 or so? I was laying there and I smelt something strong. And I woke up, and we'd camped for 2 or 3 days. And I was like, whoo, I hope that ain't my breath. And I smelled, it wasn't my breath, but I could hear something walking away from the head end of my hammock. And it had been close. It had been within 20 to 30 yards probably. But I had a thermal, I had a pistol, and I had a light laying across my lap. And I got the thermal and tried to turn the video to see what it was. And I couldn't turn enough in the hammock, so I held it up over my head and tried to get it on the thermal. And I didn't get anything but the tree behind me that the hammock was on, pretty much. But when it heard me jostling around, it stopped moving. And it just stood there silent. So I lowered the FLIR back down after I thought I might have got something, and turned it off and laid there and listened. And about 5 minutes later, it walked off directly away from me toward the creek or river, whatever. And that was the last I heard of it. But I rolled over and went back to sleep, and I woke up probably 4:30. It was either an armadillo or a raccoon come through camp, and I got it on thermal. But that night, that incident didn't bother me that bad. But over the next couple of days, the next week, I thought about this thing that may have been huge sitting there looking at me while I was asleep, and it was close enough I could smell it. And then mentally, whenever you get that picture in your head and you think that you're feet away from a monster pretty much, it kind of messes with you a little bit. And that's probably my scariest story, personal, but I know there's other people that have way scarier stories than that.
And you really expressed to me in the next week of how it bothered you. And then when I was reviewing the audio and hearing something that was throwing something in our direction,
Yep.
and sticks and rocks, and you would hear it take a few steps, and then you'd hear it get quiet, and then you'd hear something else get thrown, and then it would take a few more steps and it would get quiet, and it just kept doing that till it was actually close enough to you that you could actually smell it. The stench is what woke you up.
Yeah.
And I don't think that helped you mentally too much at that early time of being as soon as it was, and it already bothering you, hearing that something was intentionally throwing something and then moving closer, throwing something and moving closer.
Well, the picture in my mind that I got was that picture of Sigourney Weaver and the alien. And I was sitting there in my mind thinking that thing was probably looking right in my face. But
Yeah.
who knows? But it was real nice because it didn't rip my head off.
I see Jimbo asked a question.
Hey, good question that don't include me, and I like that.
Go ahead and read it, Larry.
It says, Mark, what was your approach to the 168 hours? Did it change? Did you go back to any tactics from the past?
Jimbo, I kind of do, my strategy is what I do everywhere. And the strategy was to do my homework and study the topographical maps. I knew that this was going to be a totally different type of terrain that I've ever been in. I had on our chat, Stevie had mentioned that she had thought about going and reconning the area, and she did. And she found some things. And whenever we go and we work something, our strategy is to do our homework, study the maps, and to go in during the daytime and put your eyes and let it see what it looks like in the daytime, and then come back out of the area and then go back in at night and know exactly what you're going to do, where you're going to go, which way you're going to point the thermals, where you're going to hang the recorder. And so that's basically what I did during the 168.
All right. Here's a question. What is the most intimidating, scary vocals you have experienced in the woods?
I don't know about scary. The one at Oklahoma was pretty good. I keep thinking about what happened in Georgia on that bridge, because if anything would have came up on that bridge, we were trapped like rats. There was nowhere to go. And the different screaming coming from different directions. Shelly had her recorder and headphones on, and was hearing things moving around underneath the bridge underneath us that we couldn't hear with the naked ear. So that was kind of spooky.
Well, don't cry about it.
Got a little choke there, Larry.
Really, that is probably the most intimidating vocals I've heard too, from the initial banshee screams that were coming at us to the bluff charge at the end. That was definitely the most intimidating vocals that I've heard live. And we've heard all kinds of howls and everything else, but that one was just it was several different calls during the same session, I guess. And it sounded like desperation from the banshee calls, that they were desperate to hurry up and get there because they thought the one we had isolated was going to get hurt or injured or in danger. And then as they got closer, and probably an alpha male, it turned to aggression, trying to get us away from where we were so the one we had isolated could get back to the rest of them. That's the way it seemed. And I'm no Squatch whisperer, but that's what I got out of it. What'd you get out of it?
I was just so excited when it first started, because it first started with something throwing things at us. And it just started ramping up from there.
We're going to have to time Jamie out. He evidently has not took his Ritalin tonight. Here's a good question. Spencer Jameson, what convinced you that Bigfoot was real?
That is a good question. I think over time, seeing the different things that we have seen in the woods and know that it's not natural, the human factor is not in the equation. And I pretty much started out pretty early with audio. Someone had taken me under their wing and was teaching me a lot about audio. And so the very first time that I ever set out a recorder, I captured audio, and I was so excited because I didn't know how to analyze it. And I sent it to the guy, and he analyzed it, and he said in his animal library, it did not match any known animal. And I thought, there's something going on out there. And that was at LBL.
And so far, there's nothing going on out there. What convinced me that Bigfoot was real was I don't know.
That's a good question, and that's a hard question.
It is, because I think till you have a visual sighting, you can't say yourself 100% that they're real. You still have some doubt in your mind, even though you got friends that have seen them. Till you see them yourself, you still can't say I'm 100% on it. That's just me. But I'm the team skeptic. Mark all the time want to say something's a Bigfoot, and I'm like, hold on there.
So you are the, how do I put that nicely? Because
no, I'm not her. I'm not her.
You're the girl from Finding Bigfoot.
No. We have similar likes, but I'm not her. She liked Debbie, and so do I. All right, you're out of questions. So go back to talking about your Bigfoot investigation.
What's, this would be great for people that are in chat. I see Patrick Vaughn's in there, and the different things that he could add to how he approaches. Usually, that's one thing I want to do is I don't want to necessarily look that my way is set in stone. I want to look at what other people do. And I think it's important to have the right questions without leading an eyewitness. And Debbie Jones is really good at that. She has a talent for being able to ask questions without making the witness feel like that you're questioning their integrity.
Yeah. And that's something that you got to ask, because some people are so excited about Bigfoot that it may be something else that they're just throwing in the Bigfoot box. And that's where the questioning comes in on what is this or that. Because some people believe in the paranormal, the woo Bigfoot, where Mark and I, we don't disbelieve it, but that's not our forte. We're more into the flesh and blood thing, but we don't discount anybody's stories the other way. We hadn't experienced it. Maybe they have and we just haven't. But we just try to stick to the facts, the nuts and bolts of footprints, structures, sightings, and whatever else. The physical aspect of it. Because, I mean, the woo aspect, if it's for real, there's no way to measure it or figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's magic. That's all you can say about it. So, but I know plenty of people have experienced weird stuff. And there's weird things that happen, no doubt about that. But you've got to take it all in and make a educated decision on where you're going with the investigation. And if somebody's having activity at their house, on their farm, whatever it may be, that's the physical starting point, is that house or that farm.
Can you highlight Duke's?
I can. His statement or his
statement? His statement.
Oh, you're just trying to get me in trouble.
No, I'm not.
This one?
No.
Is it further down?
It's 8:28 p.m.
It's further down then. Mm-hmm. And then I went too far down. Dead air. Dead air. Everybody's talked at 8:28. That one?
That one, yeah, that's it. This is what Duke says here. I do my very best to not believe in paranormal Bigfoot, but they just keep showing me evidence of it. And that's kind of been a true statement for me, because when I first got into this, it was like it was any other animal but a coyote, like a coyote or a rabbit or anything. But I have seen things happen and have had people that I trust and believe tell me of things that has happened to them personally. And so what you said earlier, Larry, about having an open mind, I think that's really important that we do have an open mind. And if the evidence shows it to be something else, then you've got to put your money on the evidence.
Exactly. And that's a sad thing about the woo side. I mean, other than the eyewitness account, there is generally not any evidence to back up what is seen. It's usually not captured on video, not a picture of it. People try to make something. I don't know. But you know what I'm saying. But I'm not discounting anything from anybody because I don't have the answers. Wished I did. Bigfoot Mama, what state have you found the most activity? That's a toss-up, ain't it?
Well, I would say as far as square miles goes, I would say eastern Oklahoma.
Well, I didn't want to mention Oklahoma tonight because that makes me puke a little bit. There was another question. Here's a statement from Nightwolf. Carrie's encounter scared him too. Keep talking, Mark. If you ever do see a Bigfoot yourself, you think you'll need new britches with his elbow caught?
I hope I have trained myself
You haven't.
that if I do have an up close personal encounter, that I will do what I need to do, whether if it's to back out slowly. I have said many times that I hope I go into shock because I wouldn't want to turn around and run. I wouldn't want to do something that might provoke the animal. And so I think just by standing still and knowing when to back out would be good. I know a story that Todd Standing told me is he was walking a corridor, and this corridor crossed another corridor, and he basically came face to face with a booger, and the booger was just looking at him, and he was looking at the booger, and he said his first reaction was to kneel down and just start eating grass. And that's what he did. I think that's really a wise thing to do because any animal that that the other animal might consider prey is not going to stop and just start eating. It's going to spin around and run. And I thought that's training for the unexpected to happen. 1 second you're fine, next second it's looking at you and you're looking at him, and he just squatted down and started eating grass.
Was it good?
I don't know.
Would you squat down and eat grass if you saw a Bigfoot?
I would, that's something that I would hope that I would do if we basically bumped into each other and had that eye contact going. So I would hope that I would do something like that.
Well, I'm going to be busy laughing at you if you bend down and start eating grass. Mighty American wants you to tell him a little bit more about the woo Bigfoot.
I don't know. I'm really the wrong one to ask about that.
No, you're the exact one to ask.
No, because I'm really not, because I really haven't. All I know is stories that people have told me. And if, 7 or 8 years ago, I might have said that's kind of on the woo side. But now I think, well, it's not necessarily woo. So,
Yeah, for instance, orbs, which you recently saw,
yeah,
we would have considered that woo a year ago or more. There's cloaking that they think they do. They think they go into portals. That's all part of the woo. I think mind speak is considered woo to some. What else? Is there?
if my my thing is I base everything on facts. I try to leave my perspective out of it. And so if this is what you believe, that they mind speak or they cloak or whatever, it is your job to prove it to me. And because if I have a theory, that's what I'm trying to do, is to prove, first of all, to prove my theory to myself and then to those around me. So I think that if that's what you feel, that maybe if you know of a place where they appear and disappear, then it's time to throw up a hammock at that place and let's see what kind of evidence that you can gather from it.
I agree. I mean, this may be something the government knows exactly what they can do and what they can't do. And they may have technology that they're working on that equals some of the woo things we think are woo that are scientifically possible. I don't know. That's the beauty of being a redneck from Tennessee. Some of that stuff but just blows your mind. And that's great. I saw a little taco there at the beginning of this video.
Yeah.
It's
Boy,
it's amazing all the sign we saw there.
yeah.
Bigfoot related, and that little 5-pound dog still running around
Yeah.
out there. Because we were probably a mile or more from his house, and he followed us all the way out in that swamp.
Yeah.
And Shelly took good care of him. So it's all that matters till I let out that growl, and then she run for the truck. Uh-oh. We don't need to see us eating at boyettes.
Yeah, I think we met Dan and Vicky that night when we shot that video.
Yeah, maybe. But some of the most fun times you have in looking into the Bigfoot subject is whenever you do have people that have activity and have enough confidence in you to give you a call and discuss it with you and let you come out and take a look at what's going on. Because we had the Titanium Swamp investigation, and initially going into it, looking at it, we didn't think based on the story behind it that it was valid. But then looking at the terrain and getting in there and finding sign and everything we did, that was a pretty hot spot, really and truly. So as wild as some of the stories are, that don't mean that they're not possible, for sure. All right. We need a question, or we need you to talk about what you're doing over the next 8 days.
Well, I'm up here at Larry's, and we're going to go to Middle Tennessee, and he's going to go turkey hunting, and I'm going camping. And it's a area that I've never been to, so I would love to just go up there and see if there's any signs around.
And there are, because I've been in there. There's there was a huge X at one edge of a clear cut that I took a picture of last time I was there. I haven't been to this location in probably 3 years, but turkey hunting's so terrible around West Tennessee that I'm willing to drive 2 hours to go to Middle Tennessee and hunt. But Quick Witty is asking if this video is from the 168. Looks great, but it is not.
No,
That is from Northwest Tennessee.
that's probably that was an investigation that we did probably about 6 years ago.
Has it been that long?
I believe it has.
Now, Wood Booger Farms got a good question that's going to stump you, Mark. You ready?
I'm ready.
Well, if my computer would work, it'd go up there. There it goes. What's it mean when you're sitting outside and your hands get cold?
It means that you need to go inside and get your gloves and put them on.
That's a good answer. I was going to say it means it's cold outside, that you need to get up and go inside. All right. Johnny Gill asked, do you think Bigfoot is a shapeshifter?
I don't know. I can't say. I can't say either way. It's not been proven to me, but I know a lot of our American native friends have experienced such things, and but I haven't.
Well, I know the First Nations people call shapeshifters, what do they call them? Skinwalkers?
Yeah.
And they generally have other names for Bigfoot, like hairy man or whatever their native language calls it. But generally, they're separate. They think that Bigfoot is a keeper of nature. So I don't think that Bigfoot would be considered a shapeshifter. But there may be some other wild stuff out there that can. But I don't think if Mark got bit by a Bigfoot that he'd turn into a Bigfoot on the next full moon or nothing like that. I hope not. He's been bit 3 times. And he slept through every one of them. You can ask Cheryl Corntass on that.
That tickled me that time that booger come up there and tripped over his guide wire. And then he had no shame in saying, I sure was glad when it left me and walked over to Mark.
Yeah. But then it turned and went right back to him.
Yeah.
Duke says that skinwalkers are evil people, not Bigfoot.
That's how the Native Americans have explained it to me. I know I have a good friend of mine in New Mexico, and I'm not going to mention his name, but he told me that some of his own people have accused him of being a shapeshifter.
Yeah. And that's just after he's had too much Jim Beam, ain't it?
No.
No?
No.
Do you know Tim T in Florida?
Yes.
Well, he says he's been getting video like Zasky, and he learned from him.
You know, that's what we should be doing in this community is being mentors for one another and sharing what we learn and learning from others. And that helps us put these pieces of the puzzle together. If I'm experiencing something, let's say down in Mississippi, if I talk to someone that's in Michigan that's experiencing the same thing, that we should be sharing those notes.
I agree. Because we all need help. There's so many one-dimensional researchers out there that ain't willing to take in any other aspects of research, that they're not getting anywhere. And I may be the number one one-dimensional researcher out there, but I do listen to others' input and their successes, and I do try to implement some of those. I mean, there's anytime you think you're the best out there, it's time to sit back and listen to some other people, because if you're the best out there, then this is over with. Ain't that right?
That's right.
All right. Bama's got a question for you. Do we think the Fajerski brothers are shapeshifters?
I actually thought they were a tag team wrestling brothers out of Nebraska.
Yeah. Well. What's your biggest fear, Mark?
I could say something jokingly, but I've got to be careful how I say this, because I don't want to come across as someone that's arrogant, because in all honesty, I think that I'm no better than anybody else. But it's, as far as, I can't say that I've actually been so scared that I wanted to run for the truck or to run inside of something, or I just haven't had that fear yet.
Well, my fear is easy. I don't want to be laying in the car or Jeep asleep and see one looking through the window at me. I'd rather see it looking at me in my hammock. I don't know why. That just creeps me out. I don't like creepy voyeurs.
Yeah.
You know, Mark.
All I can say is that prosecutor is a liar.
Oh, me. I don't know why people in our chat can't get along. It's real easy.
Are they not getting along?
No, they're not getting along. Here's a question from Duke. When are you guys coming up to Montana to see some Sasquatch up here?
I'm ready to go. And I was talking to Larry about it over the weekend. And Duke, what is the closest airport to you? Put that in the chat.
Uh-oh. And don't say Area 51. Bama wants to know, what do you think we may do for a meet and greet this year? That's a good question that you won't ever discuss with me and Debbie. You and Shelley just walk away.
I think what we should do is to narrow things down is to maybe put up a poll on the Facebook page and maybe start off with what month would you like to have it? And then once we get figured a month, then we'll start figuring in uh, what week of that month, and then we need to figure out where we want to have it, uh, because we could just about have it anywhere that I hate to have it at LBL every time because if somebody is far away, then they're going to be far away every time we have one. But if we moved it to Texas or Louisiana or Arkansas, maybe those people on the west side of the Mississippi will be able to come to.
I agree. It ain't always got to be convenient for me. I have a Jeep that don't overheat every time I go to Longview. Here's one. Deborah Stotts, when you see one 20 feet away, the fear will kick in, no doubt.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. The thing that I think about, will I walk away from this? And I don't want to walk away from this. I love the thrill of the chase. I love getting out in the woods and camping with my friends. And so I would hate to think that I would ever have an encounter that was maybe aggressive or something that just might scare me, that I would walk away from this.
Well, I want one to kind of be aggressive so I can aggravate the crap out of it like I do everybody else and watch it run off. That would make my whole lifetime right there, that I could aggravate a squatch.
That's pretty arrogant, Larry.
I don't care. It's fun. All right. Mighty American says y'all should come up to Washington State. I thought Mighty American was in West Tennessee now. I guess he ain't. Maybe that was his cousins that moved over here. Uh-oh. Cheese Freak Ginger Snap says, I say, come to London, Tennessee, about 10 miles down the road from Janice Carter. Just saying. Have you spent time out there around Janice Carter's farm? Cheese Freak Ginger Snap? Uh-oh. The chat just moved down, Mark. You know how that happens?
Yeah.
And then you lose everything. Just bring chili, Wonder Woman said. That's right.
They don't forget the chili story, do they?
Larry, did you buy those deer from Pretty Woman Ken Walker?
No?
Actually, the ones behind Mark are ones my son has taken. I have the big ones up in here. I put all his little ones in there. Larry has the attitude of an Ulsterman. I'm going to have to look up attitude of an Ulsterman. Quick witty, how many natives are going on the next 168? You might get one on camera. That's a good point.
I believe quite a few people have had a lot of native blood. Now, as far as full-blooded, I don't think that we had any. But that's I tell you, we can learn a lot from our Native American friends.
A whole lot if we'd drop our arrogance and listen. Look at this. Mighty Americans said they moved back to Washington.
Oh, well,
Why would anybody move way back up there when they were in God's country? You know? All right. Hey, Larry, you going in November? Well, I think Carrie contacts my work and asks what weeks I got off, and then he plans it on the week before or the week after I'm off. So at this point, probably not, because the weeks don't line up. But if I'm able to move the week, I may. But that's like pulling teeth with 8 people.
yeah. And actually, Larry's been checking into it. And I would really like for Larry to be able to come on this one. And maybe even if we have to come a couple of days late. And maybe
Well, face it, they need somebody that's willing to go in there, because all they did was stand there and video lights for a week.
Is that what you figured?
I don't know. I ain't heard nothing or seen nothing. I have no idea. I just like aggravating. That's all. Deborah says, if you see one, it will change you forever. I love camping too. Not anymore.
Wow.
We've had it.
That's you were somebody asked about our biggest fear, and I guess that's one of mine, that something would happen, and the idea of not being able to go and enjoy the outdoors and camping. It'd be a big hole in my life.
Well, I'd like to say that's not going to happen, but you just never know. Because there's been a lot of avid outdoorsmen that have given it up after they had a sighting. But they had no idea that anything was out there. That's the arrogance or false security we get as outdoorsmen. You go in the woods for 20 years, going the same route, doing the same thing, and never see anything. And then one day you decide to go to a different area or a different place that you don't know, and you're standing looking at one, and it just throws everything out of kilter. So we could say all day we think we're mentally prepared for it, but I don't know that we are. I don't know that anybody really is. Sandy D, do y'all think Bigfoot and missing 411 go together most likely?
Sandy, kind of my opinion of this, and it's from my experience of being out in the woods, is there's so many things that can go wrong out in the wilderness, and nobody would ever see a sign of you ever again. Never have no closure. One misstep crossing a river, one misstep at night, and you go over a cliff. A lot of things can happen. Certainly, I feel like there is some truth to a lot of the 411, and Bigfoot very well could have been what happened. But me just being out and doing a lot of searching at night, and know that things can happen, things can go bad, and in a wink of an eye. And So I do think it's probably you would say that there or the 411 there it could be Bigfoot related.
I think I'm more worried about an alien beaming me up than a Bigfoot kidnapping me. So I don't know. I'm sure there are opportunists and it could happen, but I don't ever go in the woods with the thought that I'm not coming out of the woods. But it could happen. And I wouldn't care because I wouldn't know. Ain't that right, Mark?
That's right, Larry.
Where's the next question? Because it flipped all the way down to the bottom. Oh, I see one. All right, I got back to it. Katie G, Larry, Mark, will you guys do any researching near the mounds in western Tennessee now? Uh-oh.
Shelley has been wanting to go to those mounds. She's been pestering us for about 3 or 4 years now to go there. And we have done research around mounds, but it's kind of more like time more than anything, you know.
Yeah. And there's not really a buffet anywhere around there. So we can't get Mark to go. But we have been to mounds in Mississippi, and it's interesting. And it's possible that these around West Tennessee may have similar things go on. I've not even visited the mounds here in West Tennessee, to be honest. Have you, Mark?
No, I haven't.
No. Well, there you go. We got to study some topo maps. Robin Ward, having one scream and wake you up in a hammock was very bad for me. I can imagine. If that one would have screamed whenever it was that close to me, I'd have probably been cleaning my hammock out. It's bad enough he stunk or she, whatever it was. All right.
Pop this question up from Quick Witty that just went by.
How far is it at the bottom or what?
It's at the bottom. It's a new comment. But 8 up, 9 up.
Quick Witty said I was calling out Carrie, but I wasn't calling out Carrie. It was just aggravating Mark for videoing lights for 3 days. I didn't see it. That one?
Yes. All right. Quick Witty. I have been fortunate enough to spend time in the woods with Carrie last year and this year. And I will never fault nobody for fear because I haven't had anything traumatic happen to me that I should have that fear. Now, Carrie, I kind of looked at last year. Carrie, it was therapy for him to go into those woods and to prove to himself that he could go back into those woods. But I'm going to tell you, this year, it was almost like a night and day difference. Carrie, as far as going deep in, Carrie went deep in. Carrie went on night hikes. And I'm talking about, I know some seasoned people that would not have done some of the night hikes that he went on because it's no turning around and running for the truck where we went. I mean, you only get so far. You get in deep like that, and it's no running back to the truck. And I give kudos to Kerry because apparently he has spent a lot of time and working on coping skills to be able to do what he did this last time. Because I know people right now that claim to be researchers, and they would not have done some of the hikes that he did.
I agree because his experience with that Bigfoot that day really scarred him to where he didn't want to go in the woods. He didn't want to hunt. He got rid of everything he had. And for him to have come as far as he has to get back in the woods, he does take a weapon with him. But like he'll tell you in his mind, he knows that that weapon's really not going to do much. It's just a little security blanket for him. But he goes out there with a camera mainly and videos what these people are seeing or doing or whatever. And I don't know if I had the experience he had and the effect it had was me, I would have been done with it most likely and probably not ever even said anything about it. I don't know. All right. Here's one for you, Mark.
When y'all gonna stuff Larry into a squat suit and send him out in the dark?
Never.
No, that's we play a little bit amongst ourselves out there. It's like lighthearted stuff, but I think that'd be a good way to get shot.
Yeah, definitely. No doubt about that. Holy moly, Mark, this is a good one for you. Sally Tafoya asks, do you think the Sasquatch is susceptible to the hantavirus illness caused by rodents' droppings or by ingesting them?
Miss Sally, you have given me way more credit than I deserve because I'm not that smart. I'm dumber than Mississippi Clay.
Oh, well, they're probably immune to it somehow. All right. Night Wolf wants you to go to Louisiana really bad.
We're going to go to Louisiana sometime. We're going to be spending a lot of time up at LBL this month. And Johnny should come up and pay us a visit.
Yeah, he's got all that money. Got all them private jets from them bands he hangs out with he can take. He spends 5 small fortunes on them cymbals and drum sets he buys. Ain't that right?
Yeah.
Johnny, we're just messing with you, but we know you got a vehicle that'll make it up here to the LBL. You can borrow a limo from Blackberry Smoke. Ain't that it?
That's it. And Johnny, you can leave them Peisty cymbals at home because I got some real good Zildjians.
Oh. Mark, how long did it take for you to get here? I guess Jackie Myers Loman.
To get where?
I guess Jackie may live in Florida, maybe. I don't know.
I uh, something come up a week before the expedition. I had planned on driving down to Georgia and riding in with Jeff, but I had to change my plans because I had to be back. So I flew down there, and it was kind of nice. I told Larry it was kind of nice to actually fly in somewhere and not do all that driving we usually do.
Jackie added to the question, recovered from Florida.
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah, I was the next day. Well, I think it was 2 days later. I told Larry, I said, I'm ready to go camping.
They did.
But when these expeditions stop and you leave camp, the work's just getting started. You think about Carrie has over 2 terabytes of evidence to go through, videos, audio, all this stuff, even before he even thinks about making this start to make his first episode out of it.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm reviewing every day. I set out recorders. Every day I went out to a different area. I reconned it, set out a recorder, and the next day I would go back, pick up the recorder, and put the recorder in a different area. And so I'm about 14 hours into reviewing audio. And when I review audio, it's second by second. So you can just imagine how many seconds are in 14 hours. And I listen to that manually. And so it's just getting started.
You know how many seconds are in 14 hours?
No, I told you I was dumb, Larry.
Well, I'm not going to figure it out without a calculator. Wonder Woman made this statement that she did a Elvis imitation for a party. Wonder if Bigfoot likes Elvis. Of course he does.
Yeah.
I like Elvis. Whenever I was 4 and 5, I'd dress up like Elvis. Whit Helton. He'd go squatching if there was a Waffle House beside the tent. Well, there always is whenever you go with us, Whit, because we always got bacon and eggs and sometimes pancakes.
Yep.
So come on down. All right. Oh, what the blank is a terabyte? It's a lot of memory.
It's a lot of memory.
Oh, yeah. Don't break that chair.
Whoa, Big Rob. Big Rob's way smarter than us.
Well, we knew that. We did.
Over 50,000 seconds in 14 hours.
Oh. Spencer, Scott Espinosa's coming, and we're fixing to go to that spot me and Anthony went to in camp. And I'm going to catch some catfish, and I'm going to let Mark fillet them, and we're going to eat them. Ain't that right, Mark?
That's right. I'll clean them.
He said he'd get more than a pound of meat out of a 25-pound catfish, too. All right. We're going to cut this short tonight because I got to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to make it to Middle Tennessee to find me a turkey. And Mark, if I find a turkey, what am I going to do?
You're going to shoot it in the face.
That's true. I will shoot it in the face. Respectfully, though. It will be respectfully. But then we're going to camp. and we may do a little boogering at night. And then I'm going to get up again and go turkey hunting while Mark's snoring. He won't get up and make me breakfast before I go either. I already know that, so I'm going to bring some peanut butter and cracker to take with me. And then I'm coming home for an hour to pack my stuff and go to Land Between the Lakes. And I got to bring fishing stuff and hunting stuff because turkey season opens Saturday at Land Between the Lakes. So we're going to be there fishing, boogering, eating, camping, and then turkey hunting a little for me anyway.
And did we say Con Squatch was coming?
I did, but I didn't want everybody to know who he was. He's super secret.
Okay. I don't know. I haven't I talked to him earlier in the month about it. But.
Well, he contacted the most important one. That was me.
Well, I guess he's done gone past me, so he's moving up the ladder.
That's right.
The next person he'll contact is Barry Browning.
Yeah. Well, Jeff has an old friend down sick. Prayers for him and family and Jeff.
Yeah. And we're so glad to see you back on here, Ruger.
Yep.
And we're glad that you're healing and prayers are being answered.
We've got a few in the community that are healing from sickness and strokes, heart surgeries. Some are battling cancer. So we do remember all those in our prayers. And we've got a good friend that hopefully is coming to LBL here in a couple of weeks that is struggling with health issues. And we always have him in our prayers also and hope to see him real soon.
An old friend that we haven't seen in quite a few years, and it'll be good to see him.
Yep, definitely. But anyway, folks, we were going to talk about Bigfoot investigations, but we talked about everything else, and that's all good. That'll save this for another day. But we're going to get off of here, and we're going to prepare for our long week of fun. And we wish y'all a good night and hope everybody comes back and joins us Thursday. And I will be here or on location, and Mark will be at the house, won't you? Getting ready to go to location.
Yeah, because I got to do the show Thursday night.
Yep. All right, folks. Y'all have a good night, and we'll catch y'all Thursday.